Dave is back at it here to give everyone another Breaking Bad Season 5 episode review video. Before I get into that, though, pretty important, if you're not caught up to the point where I am in rewatching or watching Breaking Bad, or you're just not entirely sure, then you definitely need to take the initiative and pay attention to the episode's title, which, of course, I'll say as well as put in the description for you. If that happens to be the case and you're not caught up, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this video any further just to avoid any potential spoilers. This will be Breaking Bad Season 5, Episode 14. Title of this episode is called Ozymandias. This will be my review, reaction, recap after just finishing watching this amazing episode again. It starts off with a flashback set on their first cook. Walt and Jesse conduct their first attempt at cooking meth, and Walt calls a pregnant Skylar with an excuse for not being home, and she suggests the name Holly for their baby. Now, in the present time, Hank is wounded following the shootout with Jack's Brotherhood, and unfortunately, Steve Gomez, he's dead. Poor Gomi. But Jack and his gang are unscathed. Now, Jack prepares to kill Hank, and Walt begs Jack to spare him, offering his entire $80 million fortune in exchange for Hank's life. Now, Hank chastises Walt for not understanding Jack is going to kill him anyway and accepts his death. He even says, he kept calling him Sparky, and eventually Hank's like, my name is Ashak Schrader, and you can go fuck yourself. And Hank also tells Walt that he's the smartest person that he knows, but he can't understand that Jack's mind was already made up. And of course, Jack does shoot and kill Hank. Moment of silence for Hank. What an awesome character. And Walt collapses to the ground in despair over that. The gang discovers and steals 6 of Walt's money barrels. At Todd's request, they leave the 7th for Walt. The gang buries Hank and Steve Gomez in the place of where the barrels were, and Walt identifies Jesse's hiding place as he's hiding under Walt's car, and demands that Jack carry out the hit that Walt previously had requested to him. Now, Todd suggests taking Jesse captive because he might be useful later on, and Walt spitefully reveals to Jesse, I watched Jane die. I could have saved her. I saw her choking, but I chose not to. Powerful stuff there. So the gang, Jack's gang, detains Jesse in a cell and then forces him to cook meth after they beat him up. Now, after a bullet hole in the fuel tank depletes the gas in the car, Walt rolls this barrel through the desert until he reaches a house and purchases the owner's truck. At the car wash, Marie informs Skylar that Hank has arrested Walt, and she demands that Skylar relinquish all copies of that ridiculous false confession video implicating Hank and tell Walter Jr. the truth. Now, Skylar informs Walter Jr. about Walt's drug business, and he tells her she's as bad as Walt for going along with it. Now, arriving home, Walt frantically tries to get Skylar and Walter Jr. to leave with him. Skylar's realization that Hank is dead causes an altercation where Skylar actually grabs a knife and says, you need to go now. Skylar went like Michael Myers mode, to a certain degree, with a big kitchen knife. And then Walt comes towards her as she has the knife, and she swings it, and Walt gets sliced right on his hand. And then Walt grabs her, and he's like rolling around on the ground with her. And there's a point where the knife is up, and then Walter Jr. comes by and tackles Walt off of her, and then leans back in front of his mom. And Walter Jr., while he's looking at his dad, says that he picks his phone up and calls the police. So Walt takes Holly and flees, and Skylar runs out screaming, yelling to Walt. Now, Marie and the police arrive at Skylar and Walt's place, and the police tap the home phone, and attempt to trace it when Walt calls. Skylar Walt calls in, and Walt frames abuse at Skyler, claiming he built up his drug business alone as means of forming Skyler's innocence. And Walt does confirm on the phone Hank's death and says he will not surrender as Marie starts crying real bad, and she's consoled by Walter Jr. And there's a part where Walt's just like, Skyler, you're just a stupid bitch. He says it's super demented. So it was a really powerful scene, and this episode is amazing. It's just flat out amazing for Breaking Bad. But he does that story, that whole thing to essentially make it seem like Skyler had nothing to do with anything. What do you really know anyway? What do you know about what I do? And then he leaves Holly at a fire station with her home address written on a note. The next morning, Walt meets Saul's new identity contact, who drives away with Walt and the barrel full of money. And that is how this amazing episode ends. So I'm sure many of you know this. If you didn't know, Ozymandias is considered one of the greatest episodes of TV history. Definitely top 3 when it comes to Breaking Bad. I really love the episode. It's not my favorite. I'm still, just with the whole events of season 3 and 4, season Face Off is still my favorite episode of Breaking Bad. But this is really good. Obviously, I'm giving this episode a 10 out of 10. It's an awesome episode. It's really good. I think all the acting in this episode was on par. Obviously, Bryan Cranston did amazing as Walt. Skyler did amazing. Hank, for the short time that he was in the episode, did great. He went out on his badge, on his shield. He was awesome. Jack did good. Jesse did good. Gomez did a good job of laying there. I'm sure it was like a dummy, actually. Even Marie, the emotion on Marie's face, who I'm not really fond of Marie as a character, but in this episode, she looked just devastated over the events that have happened. So this episode is definitely a 10 out of 10. And while there's a lot of spotlight characters, except for Walter Jr., even though he did a good thing with calling the police while his mom was possibly going to get attacked by Walt, I still don't like Walter Jr. Walt is going to be the character of the episode. I thought about giving it to Skyler. She was damn good as well. But Walt's just sheer amazing in this episode. So you've heard what I have to say. Guess what? It's your turn, as always. If you're a fan of Breaking Bad and you like this episode in this series, please show the love and smash the like button. If you know anybody that would be interested in a Breaking Bad review and more videos regarding Breaking Bad, go ahead and share videos with whomever would be interested. Sound off in the comment section about your thoughts. What would you score this episode? If it's anything less than a 10, I would be pleasantly surprised. Whom would be your character of the episode? And, of course, what would be your favorite moment? I liked the phone call that Walt had with Skyler with the police listening, just because it was so powerful. When he calls her a stupid bitch, I love that part. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, I want to grow this channel. That's the ultimate goal. So please don't forget to hit that sub button, subscribe to the channel, join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And JDev will return.